Cuba, mi amor, sweet and wild.
Once upon a time, in the enchanting lands of Latin America, Fidel Castro strutted into the spotlight like a peacock with a crown. His rise was like a burst of confetti at a party, symbolizing freedom and national pride for many who believed he could sprinkle a little democracy on their lives. Initially, the Cuban folks adored him. Thanks to their shared dislike for Batista, talk about a classic case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But hold your horses, because reality came galloping in like an uninvited party crasher. While Castro initially promised everyone a golden ticket filled with general elections and land reforms, the truth turned out to be more like a horror movie with political repression and bloodshed. It seemed Castro had mistaken power for people's good times, a classic case of oops, my bad. And just when things couldn't get any more dramatic, enter stage left. Che Guevara. With his stylish beret, his involvement sent shivers down the spines of former supporters. Suddenly, the word communism started to pop up like that unexpected third slice of pizza, surprising and a bit concerning. The critics waved their arms and shouted, "Hey, that's not what we ordered. Where are the welfare and democracy toppings?" Then we meet Alberto Matos, who got thrown behind bars like a cat in a dog park for speaking up. His imprisonment became a shiny example of how dissent was treated in revolutionary movements. It's like trying to get a whistle out of a choir boy when he's too busy singing the wrong tune. Expressing disagreement, it turns out, could lead to more than just a stern talking to. As the plot thickened, US-Cuba relations started to look more like a bad breakup, filled with anger and property expropriations that only added fuel to the fire. All the while, tensions escalated higher than a hot air balloon at a county fair. It was like two best friends who had a huge argument over who ate the last slice of cake. In 1960, Cuba decided to cozy up with the Soviet Union, signing economic agreements faster than kids trade lunch snacks. This was a significant shift, folks, as it locked in those communist ties tighter than grandma's hug. It also altered the international dynamics, because nothing says we're friends quite like a handshake with the Soviet Union during the Cold War. As the world watched, Castro turned down the Foreign Intervention Party invitation, trying to play the independence card while juggling tensions. He was like a magician trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat. His speeches aimed to charm the masses and rally support against those pesky external threats, but the reality was more like trying to herd cats with a laser pointer. But wait, things took a turn for the worse. The harsh realities under Castro's rule made the local circus look tame. Dissenters were treated like piñatas at a children's party, except nobody got candy. This brutality caused many of his early fans to flee faster than a kid after hearing, "You can't have any dessert," leading to a serious case of lost sympathy across the region. As Castro's policies shifted the balance from private ownership to state control, you could hear the middle class and landowners crying out, "Hey, where's our land reform that was promised with a side of social equity?" It was a recipe for confusion and resentment, leaving many feeling like they just discovered they were on the wrong ride at an amusement park. At the UN, Castro delivered a 5-hour speech that was more gripping than a telenovela. He dropped all pretenses of modern governance, leaving world leaders reeling. It was like he declared, "I'm with the Eastern Bloc now, who's got the popcorn?" This dramatic reveal had a serious impact on how the globe perceived him and his Cuban wonderland. However, things were not all sunshine and rainbows in Cuba. The economic policies under Castro led the agricultural sector to take a nosedive, causing food shortages that made a family of raccoons fighting over a pizza look like a luxury dinner. The government's mismanagement became painfully clear, leading to widespread hunger and rationing among the Cuban people. Definitely not the revolutionary feast they were hoping for. Despite his promises of better living conditions, Castro decided military buildup was more important than social welfare. It was like choosing to build a treehouse instead of fixing the roof. Definitely not the best decision. This glaring contrast between his grand revolutionary ideals and the reality of daily life left many folks feeling like they'd been duped, leading to an unexpected refugee crisis. In a twist that could baffle even the best detectives, Castro's roller coaster journey from anti-communism to embracing it creates a complex political identity that keeps historians scratching their heads. His actions ushered in significant changes, turning Cuban society on its head faster than a toddler on a sugar rush. And talk about a lack of democratic elections under Castro. This was less of a democracy and more of a game of Simon Says. With public consultations acting as mere window dressing for dictatorship, it felt like everyone was tuning in to the same old Latin American soap opera. Spoiler alert, it doesn't end well. The Cuban Missile Crisis? Oh boy, that was a real nail-biter. Cuba became the epicenter of Cold War tensions, showcasing the implications of Castro's tight squeeze with the Soviet Union. It was like being the star of a high-stakes reality show, transforming perceptions of Cuba across the Americas. Cuba's transformation into what could be described as a giant concentration camp turned out to be a failure of the revolution that promised freedom but delivered, wait for it, oppression. It's a heartbreaking tale for the Cuban people who ended up with a plot twist no one wanted. One significant issue that stood out was the lack of press freedom in Cuba. It's like trying to find a signal on an old TV stuck on a static channel. This suppression of information made it nearly impossible for the population to advocate for their rights, because let's face it, without the press, who's going to know the next best recipe for the perfect croquetas? Lastly, looking back at historical parallels between Cuba and other revolutionary movements feels like reading the How Not To Guide for Revolutions. It showcases a familiar pattern of betrayed promises, where initial support for the people somehow morphs into authoritarian control. We can definitely learn a thing or two from these roller coaster rides through history. You know, saying thank you is like putting on your favorite pair of fuzzy socks after a long day. It just feels good. It creates a cozy atmosphere, encouraging everyone to chat openly and treat each other with respect. Who knew such a tiny phrase could pack such a punch, right? And speaking of punches, acknowledging someone's effort with a simple thank you is like giving them a high five from afar. It boosts their motivation to keep doing the amazing things they're doing. It's like riding a kindness wave together. One act of gratitude leads to another, creating a cycle of support that makes life a lot more fun. Now, here's the kicker. Thank you is as versatile as a Swiss Army knife. Whether you're telling your family member thanks for passing the potatoes at dinner, or giving a nod to your coworker for saving your bacon on a project, it fits in all contexts. It's like the universal remote of politeness. Everyone can use it, and it's always effective.
This island's calling me. Salsa nights in Santiago's light. Camagüey's maze feels just right. But sounds so fine. Cuban love in every line. Colors blend in Trinidad. History in ruins clad. Santa Clara whispers brave. Che Guevara's spirit waves. Cuba, mi amor, sweet and wild. Every corner makes me smile. From the hills to the sea, this island's calling me. Cuba, mi amor, sweet and wild. Every corner makes me smile. From the hills to the sea, this island's calling me. Sweet and wild, every corner makes me smile. From the hills to the sea, this island's calling me. Hills to the sea, this island's calling me.
Alright folks, gather around. Did you know that expressing gratitude is like sprinkling magic dust that turns grumpy goblins into happy elves? Seriously, this little act can turbocharge teamwork and make collaboration feel like a cheerful dance party. That's right, when everyone is high-fiving instead of finger-pointing, group dynamics reach new heights. Now wouldn't that be a sight to see? Now, moving on. When you sprinkle those thank yous around like confetti at a parade, you create a warm and fuzzy atmosphere that even a bear in a cozy blanket would